This CyCast is provided to you by the Iowa State Letter Winners Club, bridging the gap between legend and legacy by engaging in our past to invest in our future.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to our latest CyCast, and we have a wonderful guest in one of the greatest point guards in Iowa State women's basketball history, Lyndsey Medders Fennelly, and we're so happy that she can join us. And if you don't know much about her career, she was amazing. When she graduated, she was the all-time assist leader in Iowa State history, and also her junior year led the nation in assist, and was a two-time first-team All-Big 12 honoree. And now we can probably say is a latest member of our Iowa State Athletics Hall of Fame. Welcome to our CyCast, Lyndsey.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Well, the first question I have to ask is, what was your reaction and feeling when Iowa State Athletics Director Jamie Pollard told you that you're latest inductee into our Hall of Fame?
I was as shocked and as humbled as the video would show. I don't sit around. I don't think really many former athletes sit around and wait on things like this. So I certainly wasn't in anticipation mode of anything other than you asking me a couple questions that day about my career, what I've been doing since. And,
Yep.
but I've also been really close to the program. And so I've got to witness Allison Lacey go in. I know Angie and Welly and Stacey Freeze very well. And so to even be in the same category, the same conversation as some of those players, it means the world to me. And I would finish just by saying I have struggled for a lot of my adult life of feeling validated, of feeling worth it. And I can tell you that from this exact moment about a week ago, when I first heard about it, I have walked around with a little more pride and a little sense of belonging. And so it truly means the world. And I probably don't hide it very well right now either.
Well, you definitely deserve it, Lyndsey. And, I want to start from the beginning. You grew up in Southern California, and a lot of things to do in Southern California. How did you get interested in basketball?
I'll never forget, I was about 6 years old, the 91 finals, the Bulls versus the Lakers, Magic versus Michael.
Yep.
I remember sitting on my living room couch and just being enthralled with the game. And I loved how Magic passed. I loved how Jordan jumped. I loved how the fans reacted. And from that moment of being a 6-year-old girl until almost a 39-year-old now, I can honestly say that I have just had a mad love affair with the game, and what it's done for me personally, what it's done for me professionally, all started as a 6-year-old little girl who just fell in love truly with the game.
Yeah, and maybe some people don't know this, but your brother played football at Iowa State as well, so he migrated out from Southern California to Iowa State. And I remember talking to Brett, your brother, that your mom worked for the Los Angeles Rams.
She did. She was the entertainment director, so she put on halftime shows,
Okay,
Super Bowls, and so sports was always a big thing in our house. Of the 3 out of my 4 siblings, there's 4 of us. 3 did play Division I sports at one point, and so sports was just kind of what we did and what everyone in the family seemed to enjoy.
did you ever get a chance to go to a lot of Rams games and see a lot of the athletes?
So she actually worked for the Rams before, for just a year or 2 after I was born, and then
Okay, I got you.
3 kids under the age of 5, and so not a ton of. They weren't the greatest show on turf like they were in St. Louis there for a couple of years, but sports was just always kind of a big thing. My dad was a really good high school baseball catcher, but it really was a love affair that I developed and I carried and I continued, and still to this day get to be around the game that I love so much.
Yeah, well, there's always stories on athletes and how they were recruited, and I'm always fascinated in how someone from the LA area could get to Iowa State. And I've heard a couple versions of the story, and you got to tell me if these are accurate or not.
Okay.
I'd heard a story that you caught an Iowa State game in San Diego.
I did.
And that was the first time, and I once again, I think you were maybe a sophomore or a junior in high school, and you caught an Iowa State game. They were playing out in San Diego in a tournament, and you got to see Coach Finley, and people have to realize that's right when Coach Finley was turning this program around, and it was becoming, it actually was a national power at that time, because they'd already made Elite Eights and Sweet 16s and many national tournaments. Tell us about how that happened, your first time you saw Iowa State basketball, and how Coach started recruiting you.
Yeah, so it really began. I was playing in a tournament in Oregon called the NCAA Oregon Trail, and this was back when AAU was just becoming sort of a blossoming thing. Everyone went to the NCAA Oregon Trail, and Coach, in his infamous always being early, showed up to a gym where I was playing a game. He arrived apparently a couple minutes before the game after me was supposed to start, and so he watched me kind of point guard my way through the end of the game. I don't even think I shot the ball. But I think he watched how I just, tried to manipulate the tempo and tried to dictate the next offensive set to a teammate, and how I couldn't play defense then, and I still don't play defense, but he looked past that part. And so he just started to recruit me. The number one question was, would Lyndsey go to Iowa? And my AAU coach very smartly said, where there's a gym, she's going to go. And so Iowa State just started recruiting me. Then I knew that they were in a tournament in San Diego over one of the breaks. And I'll never forget two things in that game. One was Angie Welly sprinting the court right down the middle and thinking, man, all I have to do is run like 3-point line to 3-point line and throw the ball up to a big like that. And then two was they were actually down at half. And I remember Coach Finley coaching them at halftime and thinking, I'm going to do whatever I can to play for that guy. And so even though I was very honored to be recruited by a lot of schools, Iowa State was an early favorite. And I wrote down sort of the 10 things I wanted in a school, and I wrote down my top 10 schools at the time, and Iowa State was the only one that could check off all 10. And attendance was a part of it. Obviously, weather wasn't. It's an indoor sport, so I didn't really care about that part. But I thought, I grew up in Los Angeles. I had the diversity of travel, of all sorts of different experiences and exposure as a child. And I thought if I could go anywhere, why not go as different and unique? And just special. Like I understood what it meant to play here from the moment I started being recruited, and I wanted to be part of that.
Well, the one thing that obviously Iowa State fans know, if they've paid attention through the years of Coach Finley's brilliant career, is that he's had a ton of outstanding point guards, and it's a very important position in how he runs the system. How did you know that you would fit perfectly in Coach Finley's system as the point guard?
I just got the chills because I was actually talking to my brother-in-law, Steve, about this the other day. When Iowa State was hosting a regional, and I believe it would have been then in 2002, mean, of all people to see that too, right? I know you'll know. And ended up losing to BYU. And I had a flight to come. I was planning to watch the team. I was planning to watch the game, possibly even commit at that time. And instead, Coach was now free because they lost. And so I watched BYU play Tennessee in Hilton Coliseum, and the two of us sat next to each other in the end zone, and it was like magic to my ears. I mean, just to hear how he saw the game, and so we connected really heavily, sort of in that one game. And as fate would have it, that Iowa State loss ended up being my greatest win because it solidified just this is where I wanted to be. And I'll never forget. There was a young gal, her name's Jenna Power, and she walked up. She asked for my autograph, and I signed it in big capital letters. And Coach grabbed the pen, and he said, "Don't do it like that." He said, "You're going to have to do this when you come here one day." And he showed me, you sign it in cursive. And so right away, I could feel a certain presence about just his nature and his being, that people wanted to be around this program. And I'll be honest, I just instantly fell in love. So the one story that Billy tries to tell, he either gets credit or he gets blame. That whole thing happened after the fact. So
okay.
Clear the air on that one.
Yep. I'm glad you cleared the air. Well, Lyndsey, your freshman year, which would have been the 2003-04 season, you got to play right away as a freshman, and I believe you broke the Iowa State freshman assist record. And the team, the prior season, didn't make the tournament, and you kind of got steps going back again by making the NIT that year. And what people forget, the men's team made the NIT that year, and there's a double headers, if I remember correctly, and Hilton was packed for both of those games. We had a women's basketball NIT game and then a men's basketball. What do you remember from that, and how special was that? Was that the first time you noticed that? I mean, you already knew that there was great crowds that went to Iowa State women's basketball games, but that was like over a different level, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we had 14,000 for
the
game. I think we played St. John's They had the flapping.
Oh, St. Joseph's. Yes, St. Joseph's. Yep.
I think it was that year. But yeah, I always remember, and still to this day, because again, I go to Hilton Coliseum once or twice a week, and it still floors me that a lot of the same people come to watch the game of basketball be played well, be played respectfully, year after year after year. And you know, the story that I always think of my freshman year is there was a young family who asked, and this was before the NIL age and before you had the mandatory day or two off that they have now per week, where you just get these requests for come visit the school, come talk to my team. And there was a family in Ankeny, and they just lost their mother, 2 young boys. And all they wanted for Christmas was to interact with some Iowa State players. And Mike, like, mind you, at the time, it's the middle of winter, it's winter break. The last thing California wants to do is drive down I-35, you know, and give up your time. You hear the story, but you can't quite connect that well at 18. And I'll never forget walking in that door, and these 2 young boys just lit up like a Christmas tree. And I could have been the best player, the player that played the least. I could have been tall, I could have been short. All they wanted was a piece of somebody related to Iowa State to get them through arguably the worst days of their life. And that was the moment for me when I said, this place is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Well, let's fast forward to your sophomore year, Lyndsey. And, you know, we've already touched about the point guard, floor general, great assist person. You were incredible passing the ball, setting up teammates, but you were also a very clutch shooter. And I know that you had the clutch gene. And one of the first times I think that rose out where people saw it was in 2005 against Colorado. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It was a 3-pointer at the buzzer to beat Colorado. And that was in the Big 12 tournament, correct?
It was municipal.
Yeah. And at that time, we were probably kind of maybe on the bubble a little bit, and that was a huge win. What do you remember from that game? Because it was one of those shots where you had, a 3-pointer, you had to make it to win it.
Yeah, I remember, honestly, the most vivid memory I always had, I'm very type A organized, was we were down 7 with about 50 seconds to play against Colorado. It was Seal Berry's last game, which we didn't know that at the time. And all I could think about was, I'm going to have to pack my stupid suitcase today. That's literally what I'm thinking when I'm on the floor. And meanwhile, a series of events took place. The thing I remember most about that game, minus Ann O'Neill tackling me, and it ended up on ESPN top 10, was I believe every player, or at least 4 out of the 5 players on the court, touched the ball. And that to me was sort of the microcosm of my career. Everyone wanted to talk about the 3 I made, but at the end of the day, Katie Robnett came out of nowhere to grab a rebound, passes it to a teammate, Ann O'Neill, who had a decorated career herself and could have easily pulled up the shot, made eye contact with me, threw a cross-court pass, and boom, it went in. So to me, what was special about that was how I built my career, was making sure the people around me were involved, were engaged, and then could trust me in a moment like that. And Ann and I used to talk a lot about that moment and how, you know, those were built in the summer afternoons when no one else was watching.
Yep.
We were building that trust, you know, rebounding for each other like I did with a lot of teammates. Yeah,
well, and thanks to that incredible shot, Iowa State got back into the NCAA Tournament in 2005, your sophomore year. How satisfied was that for you and the team to get back to the tournament in your second year there?
It was awesome. I mean, for a player like me who studied the game, who watched the game, who evaluated the game, I mean, I loved it. I still to this day, you hear one shining moment, and it's all you can think about, you know, for hours, is the chance to have played in that tournament. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that when I hear the word Utah, we lost in a 7-10 game, that I still don't kind of get triggered a little bit, you know, feeling like we left something out there on the floor. I think we even had a 6-ish halftime point lead. But, you know, anytime you get to play in that tournament is a really special thing. I was very honored to play all 4 postseasons. But it was, it was a remarkable experience. We got delayed, and I think we had to land in New Mexico on our way to California. We ended up playing in Fresno. I mean, it wasn't the most perfect stretch of your first ever NCAA tournament run, but I just remember being so grateful to be at a place, because you know, my freshman year was a little shaky. Like, whose isn't, right? And you're wondering,
absolutely,
where do you fit? And so I felt like my sophomore year, that was the chance for me to really say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to drive this car and let's see where it can go.
Yeah. Well, drive it you did, because your junior year, you did something really rare, and you led the nation in assists in a major statistical category. And I guess my question I have for you, Lyndsey, it's actually two questions. How much pride did you take in setting up your teammates? And two, did you follow are you leading this week, or did you follow that as the season progressed? Like, I got a chance to lead the nation in assists. Was that something that you were thinking about?
I'll start with that question first. I am so grateful I didn't live in the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat era, because I would have. I think it's hard. I remember having a conversation with George about what his phone looks like after games, and just the mentions and the tweets and all that stuff. Yeah. So I am so grateful I didn't have it. I think if I remember correctly, I knew I was sort of kind of close, but it wasn't like, okay, Megan, run, if you make this 3 or else, I'm going to go down. Yeah. It was never ever that intentional. But it is the one thing that I hang my hat on more than the WNBA experience, more than anything. I will say the Hall of Fame thing's pretty dang cool too. But it's leading the country in assists, and kind of going back to your first question, I love that the beauty of an assist is it doesn't happen without a great teammate on the other end. And so, when I enter the Hall of Fame this fall, I'm going in with my teammates. And that for me is the honor of leading the country in assists. Was we got to do that together, and we got to, I made a lot of passes, but, they had to make the shots to make it happen too.
Yeah. Well, your senior year, you led the Big 12 in assists again, and it was a fantastic season for Iowa State women's basketball. You got back to the NCAA tournament. How incredible was that for you to go out your senior year, first team All Big 12, for the second straight year, and to lead your team back into the NCAA tournament?
It was really special. We were up at Williams Arena, so it was only a 3-hour drive away.
Yep.
We played Washington that first game. And then we played a really, really hot Georgia team. I remember I was a mess at the end. I'll never forget, Coach rode in the back of the bus with me. Typically the head coach sits in the front seat. And he came back there and just sat with me for an hour. And I would tell you, I've had a lot of memories with that guy for a lot of reasons. That was the coolest one. Was just getting to think to where we were sitting when I was a junior in high school at Hilton Coliseum, to then sitting in the back of a bus riding home from an NCAA almost Sweet 16 trip, and just really connect on what was a career. If anyone would have told me all this would have happened when I got here, I would have called you crazy. And I didn't see it all coming.
Yeah. Well, I want to go backwards just a little bit, because we talked about your clutch gene, and another amazing shot that I will never forget, because I was courtside when you did this, was at the 2007 Big 12 tournament, and we were dead in the water against Nebraska, and you made, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember it being a step back 3, and you had to make it because we were down 3 at the buzzer, put it in overtime, and then you guys end up beating Nebraska, and then kept rolling and actually made the Big 12 championship game that year in 2007. What do you remember from that Nebraska game and that shot?
I remember Nikki Wieben set arguably the best ball screen. I made a living.
That's right.
I can't tell you how. I don't know how point guards score without a ball screen, if I'm going to be honest. Like, that's how much I had to use them because I wasn't overly athletic or quick. But Nikki set a great ball screen. I knew what the time was. The scouting report on me would always be, go to the left, I'm going to shoot, go to the right, I'm going to pass. And somebody in Nebraska, I don't know if they saw that correctly or not, but I went right to my left. I remember I was fading. And funny enough, I don't like to watch a lot of I don't sit around and watch old tapes of myself. But Will, our 9-year-old, knows how to work a YouTube, and he pulled that game up this winter. Yeah. And so we watched it, and he was like on the edge of his seat. And Callie, my daughter, I think, listened to me for the first time in 6 years. The shot going. But it was a remarkable run that year. And, we faced a really good Oklahoma team that was playing in their backyard, and it was 10,000 Sooners to 1,000 Cyclones, and I'd lace it up right now if I could to give that one more go.
Yeah. So after your career ended, Lyndsey, you were drafted in the WNBA, 22nd overall pick. What was your WNBA experience like?
It was short, if we're going to be honest. I got drafted. I'd had the time of my life at Iowa State. I believe that I had probably maybe mentally maxed out my career. I don't know how it could have gotten better, truly. And I probably went with that mindset in Indianapolis. I got there. I wasn't tall. I wasn't quick. I wasn't athletic. Yeah. And I could feel the contact and just how different and more physical the game was. So about a week right before the rosters were announced, I was cut. I had an opportunity to go to 2 other teams pretty quickly, like within the same day. And I remember just looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I think I'm done. And I remember talking to my agent. She said, I got this deal in Greece. I got this opportunity here. Why don't you take the summer off, think about it, and go this fall? And I just remember thinking, I'm good. Like I was so happy at Iowa State. And so the same day that I got cut is the same day that I also started doing training and kind of leading into my professional career. And I haven't looked back since. And there was also a boy that was pretty involved that I wanted to get a real shot at, because that had to be obviously hidden and quiet for so long that I was ready to start off on a new path.
Yeah, and obviously, Lyndsey, you probably have the shortest trek of all Hall of Fame inductees, because you're still living in Ames, Iowa, and you've had a great career here in Ames, still here at Iowa State, going to all the games, and you've been phenomenal as a basketball trainer, mentor, public speaker, and now a mental health advocate. How proud are you of your career in helping others?
Oh man, Beaner, you're like Barbara Walters, only in the flesh.
I wish.
I'm very proud. I feel like I have modeled my professional career after my playing career. And it's really simple. It's you get in as many games as you can. You help out as many people as possible. You drop assists where you're able. I'm still learning the taking care of myself part, which I even struggled at as a student athlete. Am I wearing the right clothes in 30-degree weather? And am I sleeping enough at night? And simple self-care things, which I'm not afraid to admit. But so much of that is just because I love this game. I love this life. I love Iowa State. So I will do anything. Somebody asks me for a ticket or a donation or that, it's hard not to want to be involved still at this place, given the role that I now wear and hat. But I'm proud of a lot of what I've done. I think I'm actually starting to slow down a little bit on some of the entrepreneurial things, which nobody will believe. But I'm just really learning to enjoy and revel in the seat that I have now.
Yep. Well, when our fans see your video when it comes out of your surprise and your reaction when Jamie Pollard told you that you're going to be in the Hall of Fame, it's pretty simple how much this means to you. And I mean, last question: how excited are you this fall to be a part of this prestigious class?
I'm thrilled beyond belief. I could jump through the screen and hug you. I'm that excited. I'm honored to be with the other inductees. I'm humbled to be joining, a really special group of Iowa State women's players that are already in the hall, but most importantly, I'm taking a lot of people with me. I'm taking my teammates. I'm taking my coaches. There will be nothing that weekend that has anything to do with me, because I know I wouldn't be going in there without Denise O'Mara, without Aaron Rosenecker, without so many people that have impacted what I was able to do as a player. Was because of what they did as people. Every fan, anybody who has ever rooted for me in some way is also joining the Hall of Fame alongside me.
Well, Lyndsey, I can't thank you enough for joining us on our CyCast. It was so great to catch up with you, and we will obviously see you this fall. And in the meantime, let's keep rooting on the Cyclones. They're having a great year, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Go Cyclones.